A big Brembo caliper might look sexy, but brake fluid is the real unsung hero. Because brake fluid has to be incompressible, have a high boiling point, resist corrosion, and lubricate the seals in your system.
That is a lot of stuff for one fluid to do.
You can choose between .3, 4, 5, and 5.1, and the higher the number, the better it is.
Except for .5. It has its own agenda, and you probably don't want it in your bike.
Brake fluid is what transfers the pressure that you apply at the lever to the brake disc itself. And when you consider how much friction it takes to stop your bike from high speeds, you start to realize why brake fluid needs a high boiling point. A fluid is used to transfer the pressure because fluid is generally incompressible, whereas a gas is compressible.
So if brake fluid were to get hot enough to boil and become a gas, you would lose most of your braking performance and have a very spongy lever.
So that's the first difference between .3, 4, 5 and 5.1. The higher the number, the higher the boiling point. The Department of Transport set the standards ranging from 205 degrees Celsius for .3 all the way up to 270 degrees Celsius for .5.1.
But those do seem to be the base requirements. This .4 from Motul, for example, claims to have a boiling point of 325 degrees Celsius, which would put it well clear of even 5.1. That does give you peace of mind though. .3 is pretty hard to find in a motorbike shop these days because it's so old-fashioned and outdated, hence why I just have it stunt double here and not a real bottle. But these four variants can then be divided into two important categories.
.3, 4 and 5.1 are glycol-based. This means they're hydrophilic, or attract water. They can absorb moisture from the air, and since water has a lower boiling point than brake fluid, this reduces its effectiveness. So it's a good idea to replace this brake fluid at least every 2 years.
.5 on the other hand is silicon-based. This means it's hydrophobic, or repels water. So it doesn't need to be replaced every 2 years. Combine this with the fact that .5 doesn't corrode painted surfaces like brake fluid is famous for, it seems like the perfect choice.
However, it has some big downsides. .5 was originally developed for the military, so that vehicles could sit around for years without being used and their brake fluid wouldn't need changing because it doesn't absorb moisture.
But as a result, it is more compressible than glycol-based brake fluids, giving you a spongy feeling lever. It also has a higher viscosity and can't lubricate ABS pumps.
So don't be confused by the terrible naming system. .5 and 5.1 might sound like they should be similar, but they couldn't be more different.
I might be being a bit harsh on .5 because it does have its time and place on older bikes, but it's pretty useless on modern bikes with ABS or good brakes.
The best brake fluid for your bike will be written on the reservoir cap, making it an easy decision.
Ideally, you don't want to mix any different brake fluid standards because they could potentially react badly and damage braking components. But if you really have to, at least .3, 4 and 5.1 are all glycol-based and will mix. In fact, you can even buy a mixture of .3 and 4 in bike shops. But .5 should never be mixed with any of the others.
There are other good brake fluid practices too. It's always best to use a brand new sealed container rather than brake fluid that's been sitting in a cupboard for years and has had plenty of time to absorb moisture. Even your reservoir cap encourages this. And it's best to try and shake the can as little as possible so that you don't introduce air into the fluid, which will need to be bled out of your brake system later on.
But anyway, that's everything you need to know about brake fluid. Let me know if you've ever had a brake fluid accident. Share this video with a friend who still has drum brakes, and I'll see you on the next ride.